Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dedicated Show. This is Kate Strashny. I'm the founder of Dedicated and host of the Dedicated Show. I'm really pleased to have a conversation today with Cal Al-Dhubaib. He is the head of AI and data science at Further. I actually met him probably almost exactly a year ago at a conference, Data Connect conference in Ohio, where we were hanging out with Cassie and a bunch of other really cool people. And stayed in touch over the several months. I've seen him a couple times at different conferences, so I'm really pleased to have him on the show. And our topic for today is building trust in AI. So, as you're joining, one question I want everybody to answer, it's a yes or no question, really simple. Whatever comes to mind first. Do you trust AI? Don't say maybe, just say yes or no. Don't say it depends. I just want to see your sort of gut reaction of whether you believe you trust AI as it is now or not. Now, before I bring in Cal, I just want to send a quick reminder to our audience. This is a live show, so we are here live. This is not pre-recorded. We're here to answer any questions, reflect on any of the comments. So make sure to use the chat on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Cal's LinkedIn as well as a place for you to go ahead and jump into the conversation, talk to us, talk to each other. It's a great place to network. If you're at this show, that means you have an interest in trust or AI or data analytics or data science. So we're all here to talk about the same things. Before I bring Cal on, just another quick reminder. Do you trust AI? Yes or no? That is the question. And now I'm going to go ahead and bring Cal up on our show. Cal, welcome to the Dedicated Show.
Hi, Kate. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that we're finally doing this. I know we talked about doing a show together for some time. And so for the next 30 minutes, we're going to talk about lots of things centered around building trust in AI. And I know I want to hear all about your story of your recent acquisition. But before we
Yeah,
get into that, I'd just love to learn more about who you are and sort of your journey to date.
absolutely. Well, thanks so much for having me. Just to tell you a little bit more about my background, I've been a practicing data scientist for about 12, a little over 12 years now. And I got into this because I couldn't really pick one thing to study in college. I kept moving from math to data science to statistics to business, and I ultimately became the first data science graduate at Case Western Reserve University, where I went for undergrad. Because as they had announced the major, I was like, wow, this is what I'm researching. This is the intersection of all the things that I love. And I jumped off the deep end from being a student to starting my first venture. And my very first company and I founded it in 2014, building all things machine learning, looking at personalized medicine and healthcare. Poor product market fit. And, the twist in the story is I started to work with hospitals on pilots around the product, and I was doing free research services. And that's when it dawned on me, oh my gosh, they actually want help understanding their data. And that's when I launched Pandata. So it was a consulting practice I ran for the better part of the last 8 years. And we eventually focused on high risk environments, so healthcare, energy, defense. And as data science became more commoditized, our focus became machine learning and AI. And the common theme, and the reason why our focus on high risk was so interesting is that it's building AI in situations where data is protected, regulated, where there's a high cost of making mistakes. And so that set the foundation of my career and the types of things I care about.
Interesting. I think people tend to avoid those high risk environments because if something breaks, a lot of bad can happen. So why did you choose to go into that space?
So funny story, that was the place nobody else wanted to play in, and it was the one opportunity I saw to build a business around. I'm like, oh great, no one's touching this, and this is such an important problem to solve.
Oh,
And over the years of doing it, I started to realize that there's such a gap. And when we talk about the power of things like machine learning, even well before generative AI became a thing, the places that needed it the most are places like banking, healthcare, and education. And so I saw this as a fundamental challenge. How can we build the right processes to get to the value of machine learning without having these unintended consequences?
Yeah, I love that you saw the opportunity, the gap, and double down. So you were there for 8 years. You ran the company for 8 years, and you have some recent big news
Yes.
about your
So
acquisition.
it's so new. Like it's less than 7 weeks old still. And we were approached by a company called Further, where I'm now working. And I met with their CEO, Mike Gustafson, last fall. And he had invited me to his office for casual conversation. And then within 5 minutes, he says, "So, uh, we're getting ready to scale up our AI practice, and we think that Pandata can be a big part of that." And over the last few months, this deal came together, and the deal closed March 15th.
Wow. Oh my God. Congratulations. That's got to be some journey though, because I was recently approached by someone for dedicated, like an acquisition, but
Amazing.
no, I'm like, it's
No?
my baby. I didn't even want to have a conversation. I'm like, go away, you. Because maybe because it's my like fourth year, maybe I'm just not there yet. Maybe I could just not be ready. Were you actively hoping for that scenario or no?
So it's really interesting. I was very much like you. I was focused on the vision.
Yeah.
There's still a lot to be done in this world of responsible AI and high risk environments, and generative AI and all the hype around it has only made that more relevant. And so I was laser focused on this growth, but I saw an opportunity with Further. And one of the coolest things about it is the culture fit.
Hmm.
I built Pandata on a handful of core values and core beliefs that influenced everything from how I hired individuals to the way we ran the business. And so one thing, for example, is low utilization. And my belief is if we wanted to stay competitive, our team constantly has to be learning new skills and spending a significant amount of time on that, which means we can't be billing the way other management consultant firms.
Hmm. Like the big
No.
four.
So, we had these like cornerstones of values that promoted openness and creating a safe space and being able to have difficult conversations about things like unintended consequences and harmful biases. And so I think that the environment sets us up to be able to operate in spaces like this. And I asked Mike, as soon as that, became a possibility, I said, "Tell me more about your culture."
Hmm.
And it was all about, hey, they call their values different things, but we have that same ethos
Okay.
and same shared purpose. And their focus was privacy first, data, analytics, and AI. And
Yeah.
so things started to just match up. And they serve a little over 100 of the Fortune 500. And I saw this instant ability to scale up some of the practices and processes we've learned into that client base. And I got so excited about that.
So, how long did it take you to be fully on board with the decision? Because I know it's not like black and white right away. You're like, yeah, this is a smart idea. No, you probably went like, no way, or yes, oh yeah, and then like back and forth because just it's a big life decision, right? So tell us about that.
It was a big life decision. And the first conversation was like, wow, this doesn't even seem real. And had a couple of conversations, but it took maybe 2 months for it to materialize. And then we started talking terms. The initial letter of intent, which is the very first formal offering of like a company saying we're really going to do this, came through just a few days before New Year's. While, as you may know, I had just taken some time off to recharge, and I was on my way to Australia, and so I just landed there. And I got this. I'm like, wow, this is real.
Oh my god.
And by that point, I'd gotten comfortable with the culture, the vision. I was excited about the opportunity, and now we had the beginnings of the deal. And over the course of the next 2 months after that, it was hustle. I was spending a ridiculous amount of time keeping the trains moving on the Pandata side, but also going through all of the tremendous paperwork and diligence to make sure that like we really were who we were saying we were on paper.
Right, of course.
There are times where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not going to happen by March 15th. And Mike would say, oh, we're going to make it happen. And so it all worked out. And just getting to that finish line, I had imagined it being like, bottles of champagne everywhere and it being this crazy party. And I was just so exhausted the day the deal closed. I went home and I slept.
It's funny, like people think you're gonna have this big celebration. I remember one like really big thing happened in my life and everyone's like, what'd you do? I'm like, I went for a walk. Like I didn't do anything. I just like you just have to like maybe take time for yourself and decompress. So you slept. Very nice.
Yeah, I slept. I was like, wow, that was a lot.
Oh man. Well, we're here to talk about building trust in AI, and you talk about something called boring AI. Tell us about that and why does boring AI matter?
So the first time I came across boring AI was with Hillary Mason, who's been an incredible thought leader in the space, and then my now good friend Jennifer Strong, who's a reporter at the time, put out a piece in the Wall Street Journal that said, for AI to become useful, it needs to become boring. And the philosophy here is that things like autocomplete or auto spell, there are these little tools in our life that we don't pay much attention to. They just work and they make us better. And when AI just works and it makes us better, and it's not this hype thing that we're all excited about that we're treating like a trophy, it actually starts to become useful and we can start to be more practical about it. And today, especially with all the hype around generative AI, there's a lot of treating it like a trophy or using it as a curiosity or going in and having fun and playing with it and then getting back to real work. So a lot of what I get excited about is this boring AI, the AI that solves problems that humans don't really care about. Like nobody cares about doing their dishes. Nobody cares about doing project documentation. Maybe we care about why it matters, but there are these things that don't excite us. Yeah. And when we have tech that just does it, our life is better. Yeah. And so these problems tend to be super high value, not generally desired by people. And in some cases, they have to be done by humans because they're happening in high risk settings like healthcare or banking, like compliance on documentation, for example. So I obsess over these problems because they're the things people don't generally like to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned washing dishes. You ruined my mood. No, but you said like it's things people don't care about unless it's not done, right? When you're looking for your coffee cup and it's still in the sink, you're like, shoot, I wish
I got to do it.
Now you got to do it. And I see Susan Walsh is here in the audience. So she's talking about how trust is all about having clean data. And she actually loves cleaning data. So she'd be the one in the kitchen doing the dishes all day if she could, because Susan, she truly enjoys
I so appreciate people like you.
So why is it so difficult to just do the damn dishes, Cal? Like what are some of those challenges that or excuses that people are coming up with that make them avoid the hard things that are ruining the trust in AI? Because it's those dirty dishes, it's that dirty data, it's the lack of documentation that is sometimes causing people to not trust in the final product that is leveraging AI.
So I'll actually take this a step back and make this not about AI for 1 second. And the reason why I get excited about these boring industries is there's so many problems that aren't being surfaced to data science and AI talent. So there's almost like this fear, this world of high-tech individuals that are solving well-known problems. And as nerds, we get really excited about, oh my gosh, what could we do with language and next gen chatbots that are interactive? And it's like the things that we experience on the consumer side of things because we're exposed to TV, we're exposed to customer experience centers. I have some friends that I've had the pleasure of meeting through a group called the Entrepreneurs Organization. And one example of a business that I just absolutely love, and I no shade about calling it a boring business, is like a manufacturer that makes like different types of bearings that normally I wouldn't get excited about, but when an airplane needs a very specific part replaced, they need to order it from a handful of people.
Hmm.
There are custom paper makers that like do things for like all sorts of odd machinery and equipment. And there's only a handful of businesses like that in the world. And it's not something that we think about on a day-to-day basis. At the same time, data science and AI talent isn't getting exposed to these businesses. So it's not that we aren't trying to solve the problems, it's that we don't even know that those are problems that need solving.
Hmm. Good, very, very good point. So then how do we get them to understand that those are problems that should be solved? Like, how do we solve that problem?
Yeah, so I mean, I care a lot about building trust on two sides.
Yeah.
So I think of the world as really there's three hats, but two sides that need to talk. One is builders. So these are your data scientists, your AI engineers, your data engineers, you name it, everybody that kind of goes into the process of pulling data, cleaning it, getting it done. That's one side. The other side is the user, and this is the person that's using the tool. Either they're aware they're using it, or it's helping them complete a part of the process, or it's providing recommendations or predictions. And then there's this new emerging third set of individuals, and I call them facilitators. And these individuals are your legal team, your risk management team, maybe even HR helping upskill individuals on using new tech. And for us to uncover these types of problems, you need all of these three different individuals talking. And I like to talk about this in the lens of the three types of training that need to happen across every organization. So there's AI literacy. What is AI? What can I expect of it? There's AI safety.
Hmm.
How can this be used to harm me? Or how do I make sure I'm not like supplying information or proprietary information to these systems that I shouldn't? And then the last is readiness. How do I use these tools with high performance to do my job more effectively?
Right.
And when you get these three sets of people through these different types of training, you start to uncover, oh my gosh, here's a problem worth solving. And this is a boring problem. And
Yeah.
now the builders have something to fixate on.
Hmm. I think that's a phenomenal approach, and hopefully companies are actually doing some training. I know some are better at it than others. Some just
Yeah.
have an on-demand course they force you to take that someone else just clicks through as fast as possible without taking it. It's like we wish people would be as interested and they should be, and it blows my mind when they're not. Like, this is the future. You should be learning about it. But that's a whole other problem to tackle, right? Of
Oh
how
my
to.
gosh. I mean, there's people triggered by it now. They're like, what? You do AI? I don't like you. I'm like, I,
Seriously, people are like, I want to stay away from AI. I'm like, but why? Why AI? Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
want
It's
it.
like, and to be clear, I'm not trying to replace you, but I am, trying to make sure that when we use AI, we use it effectively and safely. And the fact is, it's here. We can't put it back in the box. So
I
now we've got
know.
to
Like, I had a really
reconfigure.
conversation with Eric from Capitalize last week.
Yeah.
We were talking about the evolution of letters, right? Like, at some point we used to handwrite everything, and then if you had to copy paste, we were like rewriting it. And now we have a computer. So this is just an evolution. Like, you still have jobs, we're still writing letters, it's just different. I think
Yeah.
people will come to terms with it eventually. Um, but I want to take a few very quick questions from the audience here. So start with Scott. What do you, Cal, wish people business would understand about AI?
So, two things. One, that there's a more boring definition of AI. And I describe it as software that does two things: it's recognizing patterns and reacting to patterns. And these patterns can be spreadsheets or documents or images. And what you do with it is you're counting how much of something is there, you're predicting a future state, or maybe you're even generating a new pattern. So
Hmm.
it's a very simple, boring definition. And the second thing that I wish people knew is, all right, what do we do with that? That comes with a handful of assumptions. One, this software is going to be wrong some amount of the time. So it's not about AI or human. It's how do we integrate both to solve very specific problems? And the degree to which it's human or machine depends on what part of the process it is. And the AI conversation isn't about human or machine. It's about that. It's designing that new way of getting things done.
So yeah, but saying something like that it's going to be wrong some of the time, that's where people are triggered. They're like, no, no, no. If it's AI, it has to be perfect, right? I think that's where the expectations are almost not fair for poor AI. Where we work with humans, even though not all of them are
Oh yeah.
trustworthy and make mistakes and sometimes on purpose mess things up. But yet we still work with humans, and I think that's just because the expectations are different. And I think you're answering the next question here that George had from Lights on Data of do you recommend always keeping the human in the loop with any and every AI implementation? So answer that and let me know if you think the human in the loop will help with
Yeah.
raising the trust or lowering the trust. I don't even know.
So I mean, it's an essential part. It all depends. It's a great question. It all depends on the type of problem you're solving and the amount of risk inherent to that problem. Are you using AI to create personalized marketing content, or are you using AI to summarize a clinical note that was captured during a transcript of a patient and a physician, which then might be used to reference later in their treatment plan? So it all depends on what's the cost of making a mistake. That being said, there's two flavors of human in the loop. And I heard this new term recently that I'm a big fan of, and it's human over the loop.
Over
So
the loop, okay.
over the loop. Yeah, we've got in the loop, we've got over the loop.
Over
So
the
in
rainbow.
the
Let's go.
loop, in the loop is, hey, there is an AI system, and maybe it's preparing a candidate answer, and then a human touches it up or approves it and says thumbs up or thumbs down. Or maybe it's making a set of recommendations, and the human goes off and does something. Human over the loop is the necessary policy level and auditing of these systems. And so, especially if you're saying we're using AI to create transcripts of patient physician experiences, I spend a lot of time in healthcare, so I think about these problems. You'd want to look at it the way you'd look at quality control in any setting. We're going to look at 1% of these every month, and we're just going to make sure that we do in fact feel like this is a fair and accurate representative summary as it relates to this original interaction. And we're going to look at a few risk factors. We're going to look and see if this affects patients who come from diverse backgrounds differently from other patients. And so there's ways in which you can do these audits, but that's the human over the loop where you're checking every so often and you're saying, is this weird?
Right. Okay.
And we do that with people. Why don't we do that with AI?
I think we should do that with AI, right? So AI, I think some people fear it. Some people want to trust it too much, right? I think there's definitely a balance. And we need something that everyone, I guess, calls guardrails, right? We need something that keeps us in line, that we don't go nuts, but we're in those parameters. And I know further now with Pandata in there somewhere, helps clients build those guardrails, make sure you're implementing AI in a safe way. So talk about that. And then Susan was asking, like, how do we actually get started? So talk about how some of your clients actually get started as well.
I love it. I'm also going to borrow her phrase. I love getting loopy with AI. So we're going to go in and over the loop. I'll quickly react to like what's the best way to get started. And for me, I like to understand like my sniff test for where AI makes sense is this something humans are doing often, and is it a bottleneck to scaling? Is it a task that might be particularly prone to errors? And the very first thing I want to know when an organization says we want to try to do X, whatever X is with AI, I want to know, what are humans doing today? Are humans doing it? How do you evaluate them? How do you measure success? And if people aren't doing the task today, I seriously question, why are you trying to do it with AI? If only for the simple reason of you don't know how to measure success. And oftentimes folks confuse the accuracy of the AI system with the net benefit it has to the organization. So even if a model is 100% accurate, which would never happen. 100% accurate, that doesn't mean that you're going to influence 100% of decisions that it's touching.
Yeah, I love that you said if you're not doing it today, why do you want to do it with AI? And they probably just want to do it because it's a new shiny object, or their competitors are doing it and they don't understand it enough. And then it falls flat on its face and it's like, oh, AI is not good. It's like,
That's when it's exciting. And so I'm like, no, let's go make this very painfully boring.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, boring is where it's at. It seems like, right? You're not chasing the shiny new objects. You're trying to fix actual problems where AI is actually going to help you fix those problems with guardrails, so you don't
Yes.
go nuts. That's really what it is.
Well, and a note on that, and this is something that I see folks often get wrong. They treat guardrails as like, oh, just throw some guardrails on it. I'm like, no, no, guardrails are a few different things.
Yeah.
There's automated rules and filters and things that keep the AI system from behaving in ways that you deem non-desirable. And it can be as simple as, hey, always consistently output in this format, avoid these negative words. And it can be
Right.
as sophisticated as, oh, this is answering a question that we've never seen before. Maybe we shouldn't try to answer that.
And
Right?
sound like we know what we're talking about, because
Yes. But
ChatGPT
then
loves to do that. I have no idea, but let me tell you. Hold on.
let me pontificate.
Yeah.
Let me AI explain to you.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put that off to the side. But then there's human guardrails, and this can be as simple as we're gonna audit this once every month, every
Yeah.
few months, or as severe as like, you know what? While this AI system is running, we're actually gonna have a dedicated center of
Mhm.
individuals that are monitoring outputs and making sure that there's nothing undesirable happening there, or that we have the ability to intervene if something wrong happens. And the efforts of these humans can be guided by model ops, model management, automated tools that are saying, hey, this looks like it might be out of range a little bit. And that's a whole set of new jobs
Mhm.
and new capacity, right? When we start talking about what do humans do, well,
Right.
we let AI do its thing, but also understand that it takes human investment to keep it safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when people think of guardrails, they think of a policy that sits somewhere in a dusty corner in a corporate office. Like, that's not it.
Mhm.
Like you mentioned, automated rules that actually trigger behaviors and keep AI in check, and you have to tell it. And I think as the years go by, the big issues that come out will help other companies sort of
For
build their
sure.
guardrails around it. Like some of those chatbots that are, giving away thousands of dollars because they weren't told not to do that, and then the company is liable now to go forth with it. Everyone else is watching and learning,
Oh yeah.
hopefully learning, hopefully
Well, and I
implementing their own
mean,
practice.
this whole year has been just a very fun year on X. Like,
Yeah.
no takesies, backsies, Air Canada. Also, it's like AI has made the world very weird and very entertaining.
Yes, I know. It's just sitting back and watching and seeing what happens. I know we've got just a couple of minutes left, so I want to go to my pre-last question,
Yeah.
and it's just about your next steps, your future with further. What can we expect from you next?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I was most excited about when we were joining is this idea of launching an AI auditing practice. And
Okay.
those plans are starting to come together.
Okay.
And I firmly believe that as we get more sophisticated at deploying AI, as AI becomes more capable and we get more comfortable with generative, that and regulations that are now starting to come, like the EU AI Act and others that are being proposed at the state level in the US, um, there's going to be a need to have a trusted, independent third party systemically audit the
Mm-hmm.
use of algorithms for potential risks and harms that are outlined by standards like NIST and other guidelines. And so we're in the process now of assembling a team and getting individuals ready to actually be able to perform that sort of work. And this is something that's only really happening at the big four today. And I'm really excited for the opportunity to democratize that type of work.
Awesome. Amazing. Sounds like an exciting future ahead. And Cal, so the last question I always ask is, where can people go to learn more, to follow, and stay on top of all the cool things you're working on?
I am very active on LinkedIn, and I learned a lot of that from you. I got to take the brandification course, but you can also find me at a lot of industry data science events and conferences. I'm proud to say that I'm on the board of Women in Analytics, and our big signature conference, Data Connect, is coming up this July 11th and 12th in Columbus, and I'd love to see you all there in person.
Perfect. Yes, it was one of my, right before we went live, I was telling Cal, it was one of my favorite places to present The environment's great. So if anyone wants to go to a cool conference, Data Connect, July, what is it, 11th and 12th?
Yep.
In Ohio, go in person. It's
Which
just
happens to be my birthday, by the way. So
really
want to get
wow.
me a birthday gift? Come join me at Data Connect.
Help Cal celebrate. He's turning 21 finally.
I'm turning 21 again.
21 for the fifth time or so. I'm not sure. But I'm sure it's going to be fun. Cal, thank you so much for joining the Dedicated Show. Always a pleasure to chat. And yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. Stay dedicated. We'll see you online.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dave.
Bye.